No country outside Europe and South America has ever won the FIFA World Cup. In fact, a nation outside of those continents has only made it to the semi-finals on 2 occasions. The US did it in 1930 and South Korea did it in 2002, but not without controversy. It's not guaranteed that a country outside those continents will ever win the World Cup, even though I find it highly unlikely one won't win it within the next 500 or even 1000 years. Regardless, this video will try to examine the most probable candidates. A demarcation is necessary, because there's no way I'm gonna waste my life analyzing the 100 plus eligible nations. I'm only gonna consider countries that has made at least one appearance at the World Cup. This means countries like India will not be considered. But even if they were eligible, I don't think India will win it first, despite their massive population and growth in football. I've divided the contenders up into 3 categories: unlikely, possible, and likely. I'll start with the unlikely contenders and work my way up. 36 non-UEFA and CONMEBOL nations have ever qualified for the World Cup, and the majority of them are unlikely to ever win it, and thus find themselves in this category. The countries I've chosen to put here are El Salvador, DR Congo, Haiti, United Arab Emirates, Panama, Indonesia, Togo, Iraq, Trinidad and Tobago, Kuwait, Egypt, Angola, Honduras, New Zealand, Jamaica, North Korea and Cuba. That was a mouthful, but I survived. Put simply, all these countries are one step behind the other contenders. Some countries in this unlikely category are notably better than others. For example, Indonesia is definitely... I think Indonesia has a better chance to win it over the course of 500 years than, say, Cuba, for example. But I don't think Indonesia will ever win it, so they're also placed in this category. Egypt might be a bit controversial because they're notably better than a lot of the other countries, but I think there are many African countries, or at least a few, that have a better chance than Egypt. Egypt dominates the Africa Cup of Nations, but they've been struggling to replicate the success at the World Cup, which is why they're not in the possible category. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. Let's move on to the possible category. In here we have Australia, Iran, Tunisia, South Africa, Ivory Coast, Saudi Arabia, Morocco, Algeria, Senegal, Ghana, Cameroon, Costa Rica, Japan, People's Republic of China, Canada, South Korea and the United States. Did you catch that? Good. Most of these countries has made it to the knockout stage of the World Cup at least one point, which is why they're considered better than the nations put in the unlikely category. Still though, they're not in the likely category, because there's 2 countries there that's just miles ahead of any other contenders. Well, maybe not miles, but at least a few meters, metaphorically speaking. China is here, even though they've never made it to the knockout stage, because I think their future is good enough to warrant them being in this category. For example, we can see how their Super League is expanding greatly with great players. But this does not necessarily mean their national team will improve, which is why they're not in the likely category. But they have a population of over 1 billion, and that cannot be neglected, even though I don't think they will win the World Cup as the first non-European/South American team. We've finally made it to the likely category, where we have just 2 countries, Mexico and Nigeria. Mexico is the all-time highest ranked country, based on World Cup performances, outside of Europe and South America. So they are a clear favorite. But I also want to throw in Nigeria into the mix, due to the staggering progress they've made since the 1990s. They're ranked behind just Mexico, South Korea and the United States, with significantly less World Cup appearances. Also, they are becoming richer and richer, and their population is growing vastly. Not to mention they constantly produce world-class players. I think Mexico and Nigeria are indistinguishable, even though most people, or at least a lot of people, would argue Mexico are better or should be favored over them as a potential World Cup winner due to their higher consistency. More specifically, like 8 consecutive round of 16 appearances. But you also have to look at the future, and I think the future bodes even better for Nigeria. So I have to favor Nigeria ever so slightly. This is just my gut, and Mexico may very well win it before Nigeria.